Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Water and Sewer Utility Committee meeting on Thursday, August the 1st at 12 noon. We'll call the meeting to order, and do we have approval of the agenda?
Yes.
Yes, we have by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Matart. Any declarations of conflict of interest? No, there's none. So adoption of the previous draft special minutes of June 20th, 2024 attached. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Matart. Any business arising from those minutes? No? Okay, seeing that, we'll jump into the update on the fiber op project. Josh McGinnis, the utility manager, will give us an update.
Thank you, Chair. So currently, the splicing is underway. The majority of the connections have been made. There are two kind of loops that are outstanding at the moment. That's from the Brackley Depot to City Hall. And then the other loop is from the pollution control plant to Dorchester Lift Station, as well, that loop to the Grafton Lift Station. So those are the two of the major outstanding segments that require splicing. As well, the contract, I believe there's one or two specific clauses that are still being hashed out at this time. They're in good shape as my understanding. And we're working towards resolving those and moving forward. There are approximately 6 locations that have had third-party damages to the infrastructure. Those have yet to been resolved between the contractor and the third party. So once those are resolved, I believe it's who's going to pay for what. Those will be fixed, and then that will add up to what's complete. And that's the notes I have for today.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions? I know we all have lots of questions in this, so we'll start with Councillor Ramsey.
We almost wish it to go away, Chair, but Josh, you're saying there's 2 or 3 to be hooked up yet, spliced, I guess is the word. So once that's done, it's just a matter of everything's online? Like you can just fire a switch? Like I don't know much about it, so I'm just trying to get information here.
So the contractor is responsible for the connections between vaults and getting it to the locations, and then the utility is responsible for the internal equipment. So we would have equipment within the lift stations or the applicable buildings, and we're responsible for that side of it. So once we have the connections in there, we will have the equipment available, and then we can light it after that, and then once the contract has to be in place before then as well.
Okay, just to follow up, Chair, if you don't mind. Yeah, and you said there's 2 or 3 things with the contract there. You got no timeline on when that'll all be resolved or anything like that?
Not at this
With
time.
the third party? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Interesting, as we were getting a fiber update, I was also anticipating might be an update as to where we are on the IRU, in the sense of, I know we've talked quite a bit about the completion of this project and kind of wrapping things up, and as a result of that, and again, without rehashing all of this, and maybe it's at a point where we can't have a discussion on it, but just kind of get some sense of, are we getting to that point where we as a committee or a council can start to discuss the terms and conditions of the IRU that has been kind of contentious around this whole thing? I'm not, do you have any direction on that or any understanding? It'd be great.
Thank you for that. That's why it's on the agenda here today. We're I think we left it a month or 2 ago. Each meeting we've been touching on it. Then we have to know where we're going with this. Like we say, well, there's outstanding issues. The contract hasn't been signed. I believe, the contractor has began splicing without a contract. So why can't we get that together? Like why is it delayed for this amount of time? And I'm not putting you on the spot. It's more Mr. McEwen at the time we've pushed for this, we want this, we have to have this in place, and it's a continuous delay, whether it's our spot that we're delaying it or the contractor spot. But every month we come here, you know, we don't have any idea when is this going to be completed, when is this contract going to be signed, you know, where are we at? You know, that's the question. And you know, I can't state enough that we have to have this in place. So where are we? You know, somebody answer. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot for it, but we have to have an answer. We just continuously kick this down the road, right? Every month. And then you know what? There's other things come up next month, and then we forget about this, and then we come back to it, and then we're still working on it. And you know, we have to have this in place so he can splice it. Let's go down the road, get this finished. So please give us another update here.
Well, again, so we want to bring something back to you that the contractor has said they will sign, and we haven't gotten to that point with them. So we're working with the contract to bring something back to you. Okay, here are the terms that the contractor is willing to sign. Are we willing to sign on those terms? And until I have that from them, that's what I'm looking for from the contractor. What is the document that you're willing to sign so that I can bring it to committee and council to see if they're willing to sign? And that's what we're working on with the contractor. We'll continue to work with them until we get there.
And again, I can appreciate that, but what is the delay? Like, he's the one that wants this, you know, he says, well, I want a contract, you know, I'm in the open until we get this contract, what do we splice, where's the conditions? You know, what is the delay? Like, if you're ready to go, then that's one thing, and we're back on him not coming to the table. So every month we say, you know, we leave here, we think there's going to be, you know, some major progress happening, and then all of a sudden we get back to this month and we're waiting. So what is this that we're waiting for? And you've said that he hasn't come back with something. Is there negotiations going on? Do you meet once a week, or is it delayed, or where are we at with that?
Yeah, the negotiations are ongoing. Is just this past week, more terms are being discussed.
And when's another date that you're going to sit down? Like, I don't want to be coming back here next month asking the same question, right? I just can't understand why we can't get this done. Now, if it's on him, then it's on him, and then I can sit back and say, okay, that's fine, we're ready. But if it's on us, I want us to get this stuff going, right? Because, you know, as you know, the mayor will be asking questions, and we have to get the answers for him.
So we put what we felt was our best position forward to the contractor, and the contractor came back with suggested changes. So now we need to look at those changes.
Okay. So do you think we can have this done by next month?
We will work through it this month and hope. And again, when we put it back over to the contractor, if they're still not ready, then I can't guarantee that. We will work to get something back to the contractor this month saying, are you willing to sign this?
Okay, so we're here on Thursday. By next Friday, you would have a meeting?
No, it'll be, so we're into August. That'd give us a few weeks on it. It takes time to work through these things on our side and with the contractor.
Okay.
And we'll give you another update at the next committee meeting. That's the best that I can offer at this time. And I mean, hopefully I'll come back and say, hey, let's have a meeting. Let's have a special meeting. All parties are agreed. And really, it's the contractor. Are you willing? Is this a document you are willing to sign? Once I have that from the contractor, that's what I want to bring to committee and council. And I don't have that with the contractor at this time.
So it's under my impression that he has it and we're waiting for him. Is that where it's at?
He has recently put terms back to us that I need to work through with our lawyer. So it is back with us at this point.
Okay. Thank you for that, Richard.
So, Mr. Chair, just so I'm clear, I do recall that an IRU was already drafted. I think there was an actual anticipation or expectation that we would have signed that even before this point in time. I could be wrong, but I think that was in place to some degree.
There's a memorandum of understanding that lays out the principles for the IRU, and now we're trying to
down.
define the actual
Okay.
terms of the IRU. So there's an MOU that was agreed to by both parties, and now we need the details of that agreement.
Okay, that's, I needed clarity on that. I wasn't quite sure if the IRU was completely drafted or in principle, or some indication as a result of the work that was contracted out and the terms and conditions included in IRU. Yeah, and again, that's why I asked this question. I feel like, we've been talking about this, we're, for all intents and purposes, well, maybe not all, but we've probably completed this project for the most part. And the next logical step is what type of agreement or arrangement are we entering in with said vendor? I think UCC, I think we'll be entering into for the sustainability of that infrastructure for a period of whatever that looks like. So thank you for addressing those questions and comments around that, and certainly like to see that come to council or this committee for a review of what that terms could look like. So thank
Yeah. No,
Sure.
thank you. Go right ahead, Councillor
Yeah,
Ramsey.
and I just, like, I'm like everybody else in their home, and even like Richard and Joshua too, like, 4 years, like, if all of a sudden both parties don't agree, or we're gonna be in the 5th year and things like that, like, and we were basically promised from the contractor, it's just a matter of signing the contract. I thought the last time he was in, and then he can throw the switch, we'll say, and get things going. But now he's not happy with it, or we're not happy with certain side. One's blaming the other here, and like, somebody got to put their foot down here and say, this is it. Because this isn't 6 months that it's supposed to be when it started, or a year. Like, we're in our 4th year, I believe, aren't we? At least. Yeah. 5 years, yeah, okay, thank you.
But it's my understanding that the splicing has occurred. Is that correct in saying that? So there was a stall there, they were going to try to get the contract hammered out, and then, the contractor is started splicing on a goodwill type of work, and we're still negotiating. Is that correct? Would that be correct to say?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. At least we're moving forward, right? So I'm just hoping that we come back next month and you're going to have some good news, Richard. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I can't see your light.
I
there.
apologize for being late, but I was at the Emancipation celebration down at the Beaconsfield House. So I had to bike up here as quickly as I could because I saw it on the agenda. So, Mr. Chair, the last time we had them in here was May 20th, was it? No, when we had the meeting with Water and Sewer Communications, that was in May 30th, so it was June 20th when Jordan Brown was in, Pauline? No, never been May. Yeah, it was May 30th. So I asked the question at the time, Mr. Chair, who wrote the IRU? Because I thought it was a legal document, and I think our lawyer told us that it was the main parts, the main principal elements were put together by the contractor, UCC, and I had some issues about that. But could I just ask, Mr. Chair, we did go to a tender to do an inspection, to make sure everything was tied up, and then we dropped that because of the cost of it. Remember that? We dropped it, we said no to go to this third party to look at it. So we decided we'd do it internally. So everything that was outlined, that I outlined in the notice of motion, I want those boxes checked off. The splicing, I want photos, I want to see as-built drawings, everything that, and I think, Mr. Chair, you did honor that commitment that we would address all the questions that were in the notice of motion that were put in the tender. So there has to be a report that comes back here. But on May 20th, he was sitting right there, he made a comment about me, but he said, it's 100% ready to go. And I was going to take in a switch for the chair to turn on that switch, but we don't know if it's done yet. So again, 5 years. It was to be a 6-month contract. 6 months. And again, no fault to Josh, no fault to Richard. Your patience is a lot longer than, well, I've been part of it, so my patience have been wearing thin on and off over the years. So Again, I want to make sure that what was addressed in the notice of motion that went out to the tender is part of the package that comes back here. Photos, as-built drawings, and so forth. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Brown? Any questions on those? No?
We're just gonna wait, I guess.
Yeah?
This is what you're probably, we can wait.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So we're good with that? Okay, thank you for that, Joshua and Richard. We'll go down to the update on the Malpeck Water Station roof. Joshua, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So currently, temporary repairs have been conducted on the roof. Any spots that were immediately needed to be addressed. I believe they've replaced some shingles and they buttoned up where needed to be buttoned up. So that is a good note. We have reached out to our consultant and they are drafting a tender to go out to get a full replacement of the roof with asphalt shingles. So once that's ready and out there, we'll bring the pricing back to committee to compare with the slate and see where committee and council seeks to go with that.
That'd be great. You know, I appreciate that, doing that work, and we'll have a chance to look at it. You know, I know we were talking 80% and different percentages, so that'll be great for the committee to look at that, to see where we're going. Has there been any thought about, you know, what we're gonna do with the building? Has any ideas, can it be updated, changed into anything else? Is there any thoughts on that? I know the committee, we discussed that maybe could be repurposed. You know, would that be a major undertaking, I'm sure, right? I just don't know where we're going. That was said on one committee, I think, meeting, that maybe we could do that, but then, you know, it's for a cost. That'd be a huge undertaking, right?
Yes, absolutely. We have had discussions on what the future of the building is, and if we were to make, you know, major investments in it, it would come back to committee or council to say, what do we want to see this building as long-term? One of the ideas is it could be retrofitted into office space potentially. That would be a significant investment, but that way, if it's being utilized in that fashion, then it makes sense to kind of put the money into it. It is a significant piece of Charlottetown heritage. It is the original water station, and I think that could be a great potential use. But it really does come down to what committee and council believe is the ultimate use of it. And if we wanted to go down that path or another path, we'd be glad to kind of have those discussions and bring in a consultant and see what the costing would be and then bring that back.
Would it be, thank you for that, Josh. Would it be possible to get some pictures of the building, like to see where we're gonna go? I mean, you know, not everyone gets a chance to go in and do a tour of it or anything like that, right? So if the committee had some photographs of what the inside looked like, you know, the roof inside, you know, I know we replaced some doors or windows, so the floor, just to give us an idea, is this something that, you know, we could go down that avenue for, or, you know, do you have a question there, Councilor
I
McCarr?
do, yeah, I do. Thank you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. As you know, I've certainly advocated for something more to be done, considered with this building. And I appreciate, Josh, the sentiments of, it is something we could look at. I guess, you know, we've probably talked about it. Generally, what we do is we talk about a lot of things, but I think, you know, putting some pen to paper here, my question would be is, kind of which department or area within the city, you know, might embark upon some type of study to do that? I know it may be a water and sewer building, but is it a public works initiative? Is it something from another department, heritage? You know, is it something that somebody can actually put something behind these words that we keep saying is, let's look at what we can do here? I think it'd be a worthwhile study to to assess what could potentially be. We talked about potentially office spaces. I don't know what's inside the building, so that was a great suggestion of pictures, or maybe even have a tour of the building. I don't know if there's anything mechanical inside it that could be, preserved and used as a bit of a place that can be also, whether it's an information center or, that area of the town is becoming, quite populated and dense. There's lots of shopping around there. There's lots of people around. Any number of things, obviously. I mean, you look at some other projects where people come up with some really great ideas. I think we just need to start
Yeah.
to not just bring it up here, and then the next time we go to council, talk about the asphalt roof, Justin stands up and says, we should look at this as being something, more than what it is. And again, if it's, everything is, obviously cost and effort and time, and if we don't have any of those things, so be it. But we need to figure what that looks like, I think, so I don't know where that, who's the champion behind that? Is it this committee? Is it this department? Is it completely different? So maybe I'll put that on to maybe the CAO to consider where that might fit within the organization and how we might start to embark on something a little more substantial than just talking about it. Thank you.
No, that's a great idea, because you don't know, like, you fix the roof, but if the foundation's in poor shape or the walls, like, where you're doing the opposite, right? So if we had a look at it and some pictures, and then is it worthwhile even trying to go down that road, right? So that's a great idea.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I always
Mayor.
appreciate your flexibility in allowing me to open discussion here at committee. Mr. Chair, I've been out to the facility several times. Pauline's got some pictures that hopefully we can put up. But I did speak to the Craig Walker, who was the former manager of water, wastewater, utility. And he said the original roof was a slate roof, but there was a fire in the early 1900s, and it wasn't replaced by slate, it was replaced by, as Richard said, was it asphalt? Well, you as a builder would know asphalt shingles, I don't think they existed back in the early 1900s, so it was probably wooden shingles, and then eventually replaced by asphalt shingles. So we had a meeting back in October of 2023, and we had this discussion about the roof, and I thought we made a decision, which I reluctantly, I don't think I voted for it, but to go with the asphalt roof. Now, talking to Mr. McEwen, it was that we were looking at a repair. Well, a repair is 80%, 90%, just repair it. And if it has to require an overhaul repair, then let's do it. So we're there. And why this came back to council at the last regular monthly meeting, I know I missed the meeting, but I just was surprised. I thought we were already going down the road to replace the roof with asphalt. So let's just end this and let's move forward so that we can get this building. At least let's get the roof done. But in the budget for 24-25, we have $200,000 dedicated to the Malpec station, no, actually 250,000 Malpec station refurbishment. So if we spend 78,000 on the asphalt, let's look at doing something with the building. I know that Craig Walker said structurally it requires some work. The problem with the brickwork needs to be repointed. So there's lots of work that has to be done, but it was suggested by a councillor that we look outside the box and maybe work again with Holland College and see what they can do. Anyways, we have opportunities here. Let's move on with this, get this done, and as Craig Walker said, spend the money on the structure itself.
And that's great, Mayor Brown. And, I don't know if you said something, like you say about asphalt shingles, like we did put the 250 in, that was gonna do some repairs. And then we came back with the slate roof, and then that was gonna take all the money. So that's why we wanted to go back to asphalt. So, certainly look at all these, get some pictures up there.
These are
now.
the images. That roundhouse right there, that's the original roof from 1888. That's a slate roof. It went through Hurricane Juan, Hurricane Fiona. Now, you can go out and see it. It's still in perfect shape. And if you look at the front of the building, there is an award from the American Water Works Association in 1987 recognizing the city of Charlottetown. This is at an international convention, which we won the best water in North America. That was the ceremony. They have a plaque there right on the wall recognizing the city's commitment to providing. This is our first water station. This has historical significance. And I have other pictures of where the water and the spring is still active. I was drinking from it. Like, we have an opportunity to turn this piece of work or piece of architecture into something that we're very proud of and can use, as Craig Walker said, you know, you may have to do a lot of work, but it could be used for offices if we wanted to spend the money.
So, Mr. Chair, to the point, let's stop talking about an asphalt roof and just fix the roof and move on to another. Like, move on to a bigger and better plan for this in the future. I mean, that's, you know, we've been kicking the roof as the thing. We just needed to fix the roof and get it repaired. A slate roof might be what comes about in a bigger picture of this building and what that may look like. But for the purpose of what it is today, storage shed, I think is what we agreed.
Yeah.
There was no reason for hundreds of thousands of dollars in a slate roof, in my opinion. So I agree, let's just move forward and look at a bigger picture.
Exactly. You got that, Josh? That's perfect. Thank you.
It went to council, was deferred back to Heritage. But I spoke to Heritage, and they said, look, if you repair the roof, it was asphalt, similar to what the chair said about the old brass building down on Water Street. It's got a asphalt roof. I believe when it was repaired with asphalt shingles. There it is. Let's do something with the building. Craig Walker, former manager, said that this building needs repointing, needs some work, and we can use that building for offices. So I would like to look at the 250, maybe put more money next year, but that roof there, Mr. Chair, 130 plus years old. Slate lasts.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. But again, you want to, I mean, how much is this going to cost? There's got to be something there to see if the foundation, just to repoint it, it's not going to be suitable. I mean, if you're talking offices, you got to have ventilation systems in and all this stuff. So the cost just keeps going. So what are we going to do? Like, it'd be beautiful to have a slate roof for $300,000 and then the building fall down, right? So somebody's got to look at it to see where we're going to go, right? And I don't think just to have a beautiful roof and then the building fall in or millions of dollars to fix it, right?
Mr. Chair?
Go right ahead.
I'm not talking about, if we want to do something, this would be next year's budget year, bring in a consultant, do an assessment on the building. No, I'm not looking at, office space is a possibility, but if it's not, let's fix it up so that it is an historical site that we will be proud of.
And what would you do with it, Mayor? If you spent $1 million on it for a historical site, what would it do? Like, what do you have a tour? Do you have somebody sitting there every day?
It preserves a piece of our heritage. This is our first water station. This gave us water from underground wells in the city of Charlottetown in 1887. We should be proud of that. And that water station is still working.
Again, but I understand where you're coming from, but what good is it? It's like a trophy. If we don't use it, or what are we gonna do with it?
Well, you're saying in one hand, it might cost $1 million plus to fix it up for office space, HVAC and so forth, which tells me, do you want to do that? I would, but I don't think you want to do it. Or do we just try to make sure it's preserved and we can get another 100 years out of it? If it stands as an artifact, a history of our water supply here in the city of Charlottetown, which I'm very proud of, and thanks to the Joshes and the Richards and the Craig Walkers that have provided safe water for this city for many, many years.
So it's all fixed now. It's all been buttoned up. I've seen the guy up there doing the shingles. So we're gonna look at it now to see where we go. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, so any of the major issues with the roof have been repaired, but that does not alleviate the need for the replacement of it. So the major holes have been filled, but not the structure, but the shingles themselves are still at the end of the life. So it still needs to be replaced if we want to maintain the structure and prevent any further damage.
Okay,
But the temporary fix has been completed. There's no longer a tarp on it.
great. Thank you. Okay, do you want to move on to the next one? Thank you. For the new storage building, 6A.
Yes, we have gone out to tender for a new storage building at the pollution control plant. The purpose here is to kind of seek guidance moving forward. We're looking to move this to council. We're looking to accept the bid for the new storage building. Low bid came in at $245,000 plus applicable taxes. This was submitted by WM&M. There were 5 bids that were submitted, ranging quite heavily in price, but WM&M came in as the low, and we're seeking to move that forward. Some of the financial implications with this is it did come in higher than what was budgeted within our capital budget. So there would be a reallocation required in the amount of approximately $95,000. There was another project, the digester maintenance project at the treatment plant came in under budget, so there is funding available from there that could be transferred across. So that's what we're looking to move forward today.
That's great. Josh, how big a building would this be?
I believe it's 30 by 30.
Okay, it's a fairly big building. Okay, any questions, Councilor Ramsey?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Richard, sorry, I'm used to saying Richard. Josh, so this would be a storage building alongside of the other building in Riverside Drive? Or, like, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it. What is the purpose of this? Just for storage?
Yes, so this would be for storage. Currently, we do have a limited space, and this would provide us with, I believe it's 2 bay doors, 30 by 30 structure, full concrete foundation, and it would keep some of our elements that are stored inside out of the weather and provide us additional storage.
And this has no, this will not affect our budget this year, as you're saying. It's about $100,000 over, but you found 95,000. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't see an issue then, thank you.
Thank you. So, Councilor Matart will move it, and Councilor Ramsey would second it. That's great. When is that supposed to start, if it gets through council and stuff? Fairly soon, before the winter?
Yes, so within the tender, we are supposed to have the foundation complete before, I believe, October 31st. So it is in, as soon as it's approved, it should be in motion. But I'd have to double check. I believe the goal is to have it done this fiscal. So it depends on how that fits within the contractor's timeline.
Perfect. Thank you. It's fairly reasonable. All right, now we're going down to 6B, the operational budget forecast. Joshua's going to give us an update.
Perfect, so I'll go through the report details. This is for our operational budget and the forecasts. Currently, the water and sewer utility has an operational budget in the range of $15.6 million. This has a forecasted surplus for the 23-24 fiscal year in the range of $2 million. This surplus is in part due to recruitment challenges in not incurring as much debt as initially anticipated. This surplus results in lower borrowing costs for the utility. There are significant infrastructure renewal needs in the future. This will assist us with that. The surplus will allow the utility to take advantage of future funding opportunities. In the event future infrastructure needs necessitate being addressed before funding is available, then there would be an increased cost burden on the utility. So if there was a funding program available, and it was kind of a cost sharing, having this surplus available would allow us to take opportunity of that, and it would stretch our dollars just that much further.
Okay. Thank you for that, Josh. Go ahead, Councillor Ramsey, and then Councillor Matar.
So Josh, this is just for information, seeing where we're at with the budget. Like, there's nothing, you're not asking for anything along those lines. It's just an update, basically, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just on the, the surplus kind of being part with recruitment challenges, I assume from April 1 to now, in the sense of the fiscal. So does that mean that you're anticipating you're likely not to fill those positions for the remainder of the fiscal period? Or are you continuing to actively search and recruit? I guess I wouldn't want to see that money being utilized elsewhere, because it says allow you to take advantage of future funding opportunities. Is that what the intent is, to say we have a surplus of $2 million, there's other things we could do now with that? Is that the intent, Mr. Chair?
So the intent is not necessarily to jump at any other opportunities, but if that did arise, we would review that and see if that puts us into a good position. As far as the staffing, we are actively seeking positions, and once they are filled, it'll bring our capacity up to full. And that is, I think, a small portion of why the surplus is there, but that won't be utilized and leave us short. Like, that's not the intent there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. And that's why I asked to have this on the agenda. I know it was kind of a shock when we're down to the budget timelines. We were thinking it could be 300,000 or 400,000 surplus, and then it kind of jumped. We didn't have the numbers, and then, then council makes the determination of a increase in rates, and at that time we still weren't quite sure. Now we have a surplus here, and I just don't want to go down the road next year doing the same thing. Like, we're going to try to get the numbers together just before, like, we decide on the rate increase, right? So, because this kind of surprised me at this number, because, we go out looking for an increase, and council has made the decision, but I think if we knew the number at that time, it might have been a little different. So I know this is just the start, and you're in your position right now, and that's great. I just don't want to see that happen again if we can handle it, right? So that's just my opinion.
And on that, Mr. Chair, I think we only went to CPI, did we not? For the rate increase? Like, we didn't just, or did we just put it right out there? I couldn't remember during budget
Yeah,
time.
we did that a number of years ago. We said we go with CPI, and then we can change it. Council has the ability
Yeah.
to change that, right?
Okay.
So that's where we're, I think one year it was fairly
5%.
large, the CPI, right? So then we
Right.
decided to cut it back a little bit, and then this year was kind of, we adjusted. It's not in stone, it's a living document. So
Right,
when
yeah,
we say
it's a moving document,
we're tied to CPI, council has the ability to change that, right? That was
Thank you.
just something that we were going to try for a little while.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Brown, how?
Mr.
do you
Chair,
have a
I
question?
think we discussed this in finance. If you go to the budget document for 24-25, they give the forecast for 23-24. Revenue is $15,334,000. And expenses were $13,875,000. But on the bottom, it's in bracket. In bracket means it's a debt, it's a deficit. Remember we discussed this?
Yeah, well, I remember.
So the deficit was 1.4 million, 1.5 million. That's in our budget document. I think, Richard, you have to go back and look at it, you and Josh. But now, Richard, just to compare to, now, what you gave, this report you gave us is before the audited statements. So this could go up. Okay, Richard? So there's a this is a precursor for the audited statements where they comb through all the revenue and expenses. So this year, you're predicting a surplus of 165,000. Again, that might change because you don't hire, you don't do the capital projects. Again, you could look at something higher or maybe net zero. Is that true?
I do believe those numbers are inverse. When it's in a bracket, that's your deficit, and then when it's not in a bracket, that should be the surplus. I believe the surplus number should be that 1.4.
No, it's in brackets. It's in brackets in the document. It's in brackets.
I'd have to
Yeah.
review further.
And
Yeah.
Josh, again, I just want to slide into something that relates to our operational budget. Now we have a science now. Every $1 million we borrow, we have to put 10% aside for debt servicing, right? That's the new plan. Okay, so we have the project down at the Eastern Gateway Waterfront Big Dig. We have $3.8 million from our budget for that. It's called the Eastern Gateway Water and Sewer Rehabilitation. Who is tracking this work from water and wastewater? Not public works, but water and wastewater. Because this is a major expense that could hit the bottom line. Who's tracking it for us, for water and wastewater?
The invoices and such would come through finance, and then we would review them, or myself as management.
What about project management?
Yeah.
Who's the brick counter? Who's the brick counter? Who's the person that's eyes and ears for this $3.8 million we're putting in there? Can you find that out and just send it back to the committee? I don't want to take much time, Mr. Chair, but again, this will affect our bottom line going forward if we have to spend the $3.8 million. But again, if we're spending $3.8 million, we have to have someone tracking that. Public Works, I'm going to bring that up under the Public Works Standing Committee meeting on our investment on the Public Works side. But this is a major project. It's causing lots of headaches. I just want to know who is project managing for water, wastewater, Public Works. That's all I need to know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So you just find that and get back to us, Josh? I'm sure, like I said, the invoices come back into you and you have somebody to look at it.
Yep, absolutely. We'll bring that back.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Councilors, Mayor, anybody from the gallery want to talk? No? Okay, we can close the meeting. Do I have oh, no. Introduction, new business. There's no new business, right? Nothing? Nope. Yeah,
Nope.
because he always has some. Adjournment? Motion for adjourn. Councilor Ramsey, Councilor Matard. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Productive meeting. Thank you.